Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Florescen's 2020 Home Improvement Program. I want to thank you for your interest in the Florescent Home Improvement Program. In response to the public health situation facing our community, we have made several changes to our application process this year. So as you will see on your home improvement application, the very first page is a salmon color sheet, which will explain all of the changes. I would like to point out that these changes will supersede anything else in the program year procedures prior to this year. As always, if you have any questions or need clarification, you can always call us on the number listed on that sheet. The informational seminar that was previously scheduled for April 8th is now going to be made available through this PowerPoint presentation and can be found on the Florescent Cable Channel Facebook page, the city website, on the Community Development page, and YouTube. One main change is there will be no in-person application review appointments, but we will still be here and available to assist you. You can call us at the number listed, like I said. We will also be able to include phone meetings. We can correspond through emails. We will even be able to do some Zoom meetings. There will be a limited number of drop-off reviews, but those will be made by appointment only. And that will be where you drop off all of your completed application with all of the necessary documents. We will then review them, then you will have to come pick them up. Another change that is pretty significant will be that instead of the applications being on a first-come, first-served basis, they will be submitted between the dates of May 1st and May 8th. And you can drop them off either, you can either drop them off or you can mail them. We will then collect those for a week and we will have a lottery process. Couple things to keep in mind. You must indicate the address of the home you're applying for on the outside of your application. Also, on the household information form, you must list a phone number and or an email address that you can be reached at within 72 hours. If we cannot get a hold of you in that time frame, then your application will be deemed ineligible. So let's take a moment to go through the home improvement application. On the first page, actually it's page number 2. This is where you're going to begin the process. And the first page just really basically gives you an overview of your next steps. So what we always ask is that you read through this application thoroughly. Highlight any questions. They may be answered later on in the application, but at any time if you need assistance, please don't hesitate to call. Then the next thing is to put your application together. So basically, you're going to need to make copies of all your necessary documents. We don't want any originals. You do not get these documents back. We will do our best to review the applications prior to May 1st. Once again, refer to the front page as to how you can make that happen. And then starting at 8 a.m. on May 1st, we will accept completed applications. We will not accept them prior to this time. And we will keep them open for a week this year due to the circumstances. If you turn to page 3, you will see a list of guidelines for eligibility. Let me start first by telling you what the home improvement program is. The home improvement program offers to the City of Florissant residents, no interest loan up to $5,000 to be able to be used towards safety and code violations. The loan is a 0% $5,000 5-year forgivable loan. So what that means is that the loan must be repaid if the applicant does not stay in the home for 5 years, does not live in it owner occupied. We do secure a promissory note and a deed of trust on the property. So who's eligible? There's several criteria of what needs to be, of who would actually qualify. However, basically is income eligible for household. So depending on how many people actually live in your home, you will then combine all of your income together. And if you notice at the bottom of page 3, it will give you the household income guidelines. If you turn to page 4, that will have a list of all of your eligible repairs. And the next page will show you what your ineligible repairs are. Feel free to look over all of that information. And then the next thing we address is the program process and overview. Like I said, the applications are available for the whole month of April. During that month, it's your time to be able to review the application, gather your documents, and contact us to make sure that you have all of the correct documents at the time of submission. Usually at the time of submission, when we go over them, if you're missing items or they're the wrong items, then those applications are usually deemed ineligible for insufficient documentation. So we really want to try to work with you, and I know it'll be a little bit more challenging this year due to the social distancing, but we are making every effort to accommodate your needs. So please don't hesitate to call us. You will receive notification of your application status about 8 weeks after that May 8th deadline. And letters will be sent to every applicant regardless of acceptance or denial into the program. So what happens after you've been selected or approved into the home improvement program? The very first thing that's going to happen is we are going to do an initial inspection on your home. After the receipt of your acceptance letter, we will schedule a minimum housing inspection. And at that time as well, we will also be going to each individual's homes and taking pictures of the exterior so that we can complete an environmental review. The initial inspection, the minimum housing inspection, is conducted on both the interior and exterior of the home, and it usually runs about 1 to 3 hours. At that time, we will go through all of the necessary initial meeting documents. This is where you're going to sign your deed of trust, your promissory note, your home improvement agreement. We're going to give you necessary lead documents, all the nitty-gritty of the of going into contract with us for the loan. The homeowner must be present when we are doing the initial housing inspection and signing these papers, and there is no exception to this rule. So once you've gone through that process and we see what the scope of work is necessary for an individual's home, we will sit down with them and figure out how actually are we going to tackle this. What's next? We will kind of sit down with you and provide a scope of work. We will then ask you to receive some bids. Any item that is over $500 requires 3 bids. And no items can be addressed prior to approval of the community development director. And housing code violations must be corrected before any non-required code compliant. So we call those wish list items. Wish list items come secondary from the code violations that are found on your minimum housing inspection. Any work that the homeowners would like to complete themselves can be completed, and reimbursement of materials can be provided if there are any remaining funds left at the end of all your other items getting completed. If you complete something prior to entering into the homeowner's agreement, those expenses will not be eligible for reimbursement. If work is performed by the homeowner, friend, or relative, not just the homeowner, but a friend or a relative, or you are actually working for the company that is providing that labor, we can only reimburse for materials. We won't be able to reimburse for labor. And like I said, those reimbursements will be at the end of your program. So page 7, they talk about the obtaining bids. Like I said earlier, you must obtain a minimum of 3 formal written bids for each project. Then we will select a contractor, or you will select a contractor, and then you will submit all of that information and bids to the Community Development Office for our review and approval. Page 8 talks about selected contractor requirements. You can read through that. Individual projects and re-inspections. Now we will talk about the what comes next, and that is the re-inspection. So let's address re-inspections. After an individual project has been completed, the homeowner will need to call the Community Development Department to schedule a re-inspection. As soon as the re-inspection is completed and approved, then an invoice will need to be submitted to the Community Development Office, at which time we will send payment directly to that contractor. Page 9 talks about the final inspection a little bit more, and payment for repairs. I would like to point out that payments are made directly to contractors. If a homeowner decides to pay a contractor directly without the approval of the Community Development Office, it will be an ineligible expense for reimbursement. So a couple of things that you have to keep in mind with the bids and the payments and this portion of it is, number 1, don't tell a contractor to start work if it has not been approved by the Community Development Office. Once that work has been completed, you need to call the Community Development Office so that we can schedule a re-inspection with one of our inspectors. Once the completed work has been inspected and approved, then an invoice needs to be submitted to the City of Florissant, and we will then submit payment directly to them. For homeowner reimbursement, after all work is completed and all contractors are paid, if there's additional funds remaining and the homeowner has receipts that are eligible for reimbursement, the homeowner at that time then can submit the original receipts to our office for reimbursement. Also, when we are creating your scope of work, the payment of materials or the reimbursement of materials or deciding the scope of work for that project, we look at what is already existing and we will replace with like items. Anything that is above and beyond would be the responsibility of the homeowner. So, for example, if right now you have laminate kitchen countertops and you need to replace those for some reason or another, then we could replace with laminate. We would not be able to replace with granite. If existing your floor is linoleum and for some reason that flooring needs to be replaced due to a trip hazard or something like that, then we could replace with linoleum. If you were to want to come back and replace with ceramic, that additional cost between the linoleum cost and the ceramic cost would be the responsibility of the homeowner. If you turn to page 10, this will talk about the repayment of loan and loan stipulations. Let's talk a little bit about subordination. If you're considering refinancing your mortgage during the 5-year period of the loan period, the city will subordinate with that, but it has to meet the subordination guidelines, which is what you will get in your documents of initial inspection. So if you are really contemplating right now, and you can't do it within the first year. So if you're really contemplating refinancing, you might want to refinance before you decide to go into the home improvement loan program. Repayment of loan. The repayment of loan occurs when a homeowner sells the house during your 5-year affordability period. The loan is only forgiven if the applicant is the owner and occupier of that home for the entire 5 years. So if you were to refinance and it did not meet subordination, you would have to pay this back. If you did not live in your home for 5 years, you would have to pay this back in its entirety. If this property were to become a rental property, then you would have to pay this $5,000 back in its entirety. Once you have satisfied the affordability period, we then will forgive the loan through a deed of release. If you have been a participant before, we will accept your applications, but you can only be considered every 10 years, and we will look at fulfilling the existing reservations that we have with new applicants prior. So feel free to fill out an application, but we will only look at your application if there are remaining loans left over after others who have never been a participant before they basically have first dibs. We talked about the program terms, staying in your house. We talked about code items needing to be completed first. We talked about not addressing any items or approving any work without the prior approval of the community development director and or office. And if you have started anything prior to being accepted into the program, then you will need to complete that work, and that work is eligible for reimbursement. Page 12 just gives you a few helpful tips. And if you turn to page 13, we'll be getting into the actual documents that will be turned in at the time of application. So page 13 is a program overview. So basically this you will sign, and it's basically stating everything that we have just gone through from pages 1 through 12. It says that you've read it, that you understand it, and you're signing off on the fact that that is in fact the case. The next page is the Home Improvement Program Household Information Sheet. This is where you are going to put the applicant's name, which is the owner of the home. This is also where you're going to have to make sure that you have a cell phone number or a home phone number or a work phone number or an email address that we can actually contact you through. We have to be able to get a hold of you, especially with the process this year being open for a week. If we can't get a hold of you within 72 hours, then we will automatically go on to the next applicant. So fill this out. You will have to include every single member of the household. So anyone living with you, their information has to be on here. So that is page 14, 15, 14 and 15. So fill that out, and if you have co-owners, both will need to sign and date. If it's just an individual owner, then it would just be them. Page 16 is the declaration. This basically is a declaration stating that you are participating in this program voluntarily, that you understand that it is administered by the City of Florson's Community Development Office, and that you understand it's a $5,000 loan, not to exceed that, and that you're going to comply with all the program guidelines. So that will also be turned in with your completed application after May 1st or on May 1st through May 8th. The next document on page 17 is a release. This is basically just a release that says that you're entering into the home improvement program, and that it's voluntary participation, and that you have understood and you will participate with any of the agreements and contracts that we enter into after approval into the program. Page 18 basically is a checklist. You're going to want to use this to make sure that when you turn your application in, that everything on this page is in your application. Use this as pretty much your Bible. So basically your application is going to include all of those pages that I just went over: the program overview, the household information, the declaration, the release, and the checklist, which is this page that we're on right now. You're also going to supply all your 2019 income documentation. So what we're looking for there is all federal income tax returns for anyone 18 years old or older. Let me go back to the 18 years old or over. We have to have their income tax return. If they are a full-time student, we will need proof of full-time student status. If you need assistance with directing you on exactly what that is, please don't hesitate to call. When you turn in copies of your income tax return, we will need all the supporting documentation with that, everything that goes along with it. Anything that is actually in your income tax return, any of those numbers where they are able to plug that in, your W-2s, your 1099s, any Social Security information you might have, any child support, any documentation for income needs to be included in on that. If there were no taxes filed, there is a verification of non-filing, and in the application there is an IRS tax form that will need to be filled out and submitted. If you keep a copy of that and submit that with your application, then we at least know that you have sent that to the IRS. Proof of all current sources of income. So what we need in that area is recent pay stubs reflecting 4 weeks of pay. So if you get paid bi-weekly, you'll be submitting the last two. If you get paid monthly, you'll submit one of them. These pay stubs are required for everybody 18 years old or older in the household. We also will need current statements for any pensions, annuities, IRA payments, Social Security, unemployment statements, documentation of child support or alimony. If you did have a bankruptcy in the past, we would need the discharge. And then the divorce or parenting plans should be included as well. For page 19, this basically is homeownership and occupant documentation that we will be looking at. Proof of ownership on your home is required for this program. This is not a deed of trust. What we're looking for is a general warranty deed or a quitclaim deed. If a deceased person's name appears on that deed, we would need a death certificate. We will also need copies of driver's license and Social Security cards for all household members. We will also need a copy of the most recent paid real estate property receipt. You can find this on St. Louis County's revenue site if you do not have a copy already in your files. We also need proof of paid homeownership or homeowners insurance policy. These must include the policy dates, the address, and proof that it's actually paid. A declaration is not an acceptable document for this particular required document. It has to be paid. So you can call the homeowners insurance company and ask them to provide you with a paid receipt. On that paid receipt, though, we do need to have the policy period and the address of the insured property. Likewise, we also need a copy of your most recent loan statement. So your mortgage statement that comes monthly, it would just be a copy of the most recent one. If you do not receive monthly mortgage statements, you can usually find these online through your mortgage company, or they can send you one. You will need to sign this sheet, page number 19. You'll need to sign and turn that in to us as well. The next, page 20, basically is just a lot of frequently asked questions. Feel free to read those over. That might help you if you have any questions. But like I said, if you don't understand anything, or you have questions, or you would like to speak with someone personally, then please feel free to call us. And the last page is just a reminder page. Actually, the seminar is no longer going to take place. We are substituting that with this PowerPoint presentation. Completed applications are not going to be accepted before 8 a.m. on Friday, May 1st. We do have a drop box at the back of City Hall where you can drop off your applications on May 1st through May 8th, and or you can mail them. Please do not mail them before May 1st. So that pretty much sums up the home improvement application. And I would like to thank everyone for their interest in the program. It is a program that has been found to really assist our residents with some very necessary home repair. I would like to just clarify that this is not a remodel program, that this actually is an improvement program so that we can help maintain and bring homes into code compliance for health and safety reasons. I think one thing that I did not touch on real quickly is that if for some reason we do see a situation where there might be more than $5,000 worth of home repair that is necessary, we will work with that individual individually, but this is only a $5,000 loan. If you have over $5,000 worth of improvements or necessary activities to be addressed, then that remaining, anything over $5,000 would come out of the homeowner's, it would be the responsibility of the homeowner. So just keep in mind, though, that we do work with people to kind of navigate that process. So please don't hesitate to talk to us about individual specific situations. I want to thank you for everyone's time. And that concludes the instructional part of the home improvement applications. We look forward to hearing from everyone and look forward to working this year with our residents for our 2020 home improvement program. Thank you.